Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Navy League's annual Sea Aerospace Conference and Trade Show outside Washington, D.C. and National Harbor, Maryland, where our coverage is sponsored by Fincantieri, Huntington Ingalls Industries, and Leonardo DRS. And we're here on the HII, the Huntington Ingalls Industries stand, to talk to retired United States Navy Commander Steve Sloan, who is the LPD Program Manager at Ingalls Shipbuilding. Sir, thanks very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Vago, great to see you again.
You guys have some news to actually discuss. The Navy has always been, has had LXR as a program that was going to be the successor to the LPD-17 class, which you guys have successfully built now for some time. I think number 28 is in construction, if memory serves correctly. And so this would be LPD-30, and you just got a sole source contract for the Flight 2. Talk to us about what the Navy's thinking is, what they're telling you about the program, and sort of what's to come next.
Happy to do that, Vago. We've been working with the Navy on various aspects of the design since 2013 in early industry involvement studies and through the design process. And we now have a stable baseline as we've put changes into the ship for cost reduction and for the warfighting capability that the Marines and Navy need in the future in LPDs 28, 29, and now the design is mature for LPD-30, that it meets the requirements for LXR, and the Navy's confident that that's the best way to go forward. So they put out a pre-solicitation notice on Friday announcing that LPD-30 and LPD Flight 2, a derivative of the San Antonio class, will meet the requirements for LXR, and that Huntington Ingalls is the shipbuilder to build that ship.
So talk to us a little bit about what Flight 2 will bring. You guys have been working on this for a long time. You've gotten a lot of fleet input. You've got, obviously, from leadership and headquarters, you've gotten some input. How is 30 and beyond, how is Flight 2 going to be different from what we've seen so far?
Right, it's not dramatically different from LPD 28 and 29. It's very similar to LPD 28 and 29. The big changes that are coming are the ESR radar that the Navy is procuring for multiple ship classes. Additionally, this ship will be ready for the ship-to-shore connector that the Marines are buying now, and the CH-53 kilo helicopter. And also they'll be putting a lithium-ion battery storage and recharging stations on the ship. Those are the changes, and they're really, I would call them just small ECP type changes to go from 29 to LPD-30.
And for those folks in the audience who don't know how the program step changed at that 28-29 level, talk to us about what capabilities, how those ships are different from the ships that came before them.
Sure, the biggest thing that you'll notice if you look at the model that we're standing in front of is that the LPD 28 and follow went away from the conical mast, the enclosed mast that was on the earlier LPDs. And so we're more of a traditional mast structure now, looks similar but larger to a DDG mast, and the aft mast, platform mast for the rotating 3D radar. We also removed the upper stern gate, like the LSDs that are in the fleet today don't have an upper stern gate, and made some other changes, took the number of troops down just a little bit on 30 as well because the requirement was less, but by and large it's very much like the LPDs that the Marines and Navy love to operate today.
It's a lot less of a pain in the butt, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's easier and less expensive to construct with that type of mast, and that's the critical element. There was a cost cap or a cost parameter that the Navy wants us to meet for LPD-30 LXR, and we believe that by working with the Navy to do the right things in the design, and also the modernization that we're doing on our shipyard, that we're going to be able to perform and build those ships to the budget that the Navy has out there.
And that was one of the largest, actually, composite structures in the entire Navy.
Yes, that's right. And that and the deck house for the DDG 1000.
Yeah, extraordinary. Anyway, I love discussions and sort of balancing technology and capability like that. Talk to us about where you are on the build cycle of the ships that are in the yard right now, and what rough delivery schedules are you shooting for?
LPD 28 was awarded to us in December of 16. LPD 29 was awarded in February of this year, and so we're We've laid keel for LPD-28 in October of last year, and we're erecting units now. You're starting to see the engine room and the blocks come together, the keel blocks and so forth, and beginning to stack up. And she delivers in 2021, and then LPD-29 will deliver in 2023.
We heard from Brian Kuchnis, who's the boss down there at Ingalls in Pascagoula, where these ships are built, and it's been a 4-year shipyard investment modernization plan. The state of Mississippi, full disclosure, Mississippi Development Authority sponsored our trip down there, and it's been an enormous amount of investment in the yard from the company, but also the state of Mississippi, and with the understanding of the Navy as well. And so as the program manager, what challenges does that present to you? Because you are running one of the largest, most complex shipbuilding programs for series production. You have very tight delivery timelines and schedules. Meanwhile, the yard is changing all the way around you. Talk to us a little bit about the challenge as a program manager when Brian or Mike Petters looks you in the eye and you're just trying to be like, we gotta do this, accommodate this. Talk to us a little bit about that process.
Sure, it actually is less challenging than you might think, Vago. We came down a bit from our peak in manning and the number of ships we were building at one time, and so there was an opportunity really that presented itself when we had a bit of a downturn to tear up some ground and build some buildings and put some covers in. And actually, I'm delighted right now that some of the units for LPD-28 are being built under cover that might previously have been built outdoors. So it's really a tremendous advantage. A lot of the shipyard is being covered right now, and some modern equipment that computer-driven machinery and welding and other such things that will enable us to be very efficient.
And I want to ask you about innovation. Everybody talks about innovation. It's actually one of your buzzwords at the company, and you guys are always innovating. Everybody in this room is trying to innovate to remain competitive and also respond better to their customer. But then that in turn presents challenges, particularly for a ship where you're trying to have a consistency of design, have commonality of equipment, because obviously the Navy wants, for logistical reasons and supportability reasons, to do that. Talk to us about the balance of how you guys manage to introduce innovation, greater efficiency, or greater effectiveness that actually may cost you a little bit more money. It's always a dynamic equation. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys manage that.
One of the great things about the size of Ingalls and the fact that we're building multiple ship classes is we can learn things from other programs. And also the LPD design was originally an Avondale design, and so we're taking the opportunity over these transition ships to optimize the design for Ingalls facility. And so it's always a challenge. You're right, you've got to balance it, but we do a business case analysis on the ideas that we have. We go ahead and study them with a production engineering group or engineering, and then we take a look at, does it make sense to implement the change, and then we pull the trigger and go ahead and do that. And so that's the process that we've been on LPD 28, 29, and we'll carry it right into 30.
This ship, over time, Bob Work, former Deputy Defense Secretary, former Navy Undersecretary, was a fan of trying to use this for purposes other than being an LPD. Whether it was for a missile ship, whether it was for an arsenal ship concept, because the sheer number of munitions, habitability, stability, radar, it's just a whole bunch of attributes that go with this hull form. Talk to us about how you guys are thinking and conversations you're having with the customer, because this talk always keeps coming around that there could be a very, very powerful role, especially when we're looking at long-range missile ships, things that can project firepower over range.
Yes, sir. Vago, it's always smart if you can get the fixed cost out and amortize them over more and more ships. And certainly this is a ship class that was designed years ago. It's proven. We've worked a lot of the bugs out and the things that the Navy wanted improved over the years. So we're at a great point in the construction of the ship. And that is far less expensive than it would be to do a clean sheet design. So I know that the Navy has considered options, and certainly we're feeding them when they ask about the idea of making it a missile defense ship. Certainly there's a compelling need with Russia, China, the threats from around the world to have a missile defense capability, and you could put a lot of missile defense capability, a very large radar that can see long distances and engage threats from long distance on this hull form. So right now I'm personally focused on building 28, 29 and getting ready to build 30, but should the need for the nation and the Navy arise to do that, we're positioned to do that.
Steve, thanks very much again as always, really appreciate it. Steve Sloan from Ingalls Shipbuilding, the man who makes sure the LPD program stays on track, and best of luck to you on the new part of the program.
Thank you, my pleasure, Vago.